Thank you for being with us today. I would like to start with just very small, maybe introduction. I met Arkadiy several months ago, and I've known about him, and I was very impressed by how this his leadership skills and his tremendous achievements in life cohabitates with the tremendous modesty so that's very impressive to see. But just very briefly, what I wanted to say is that Arkadiy started very small startup in New Jersey in '90s, and now this is a company called EPAM Systems, which is a global leader of software engineering and many services, software services. But what impresses me the most is that how much high quality jobs in IT sector Arkadiy managed to, with his partners and business, obviously, business partners and his company, managed to create in many countries of the world, predominantly former Soviet Union space in Central and Eastern Europe. And Georgia is now became one of the presidents of EPAM, and that definitely encourages me. I know that there were several hundred jobs were created in Georgia, so this is very interesting development. Just about a year only that EPAM is operating in Georgia. So this is very small, kind of obviously. Arkadiy deserves more. He's a very, very good and successful entrepreneur, global leader in business of IT, and star speaker on many events. But today he's our guest speaker, and I would like to start with the first question, Arkadiy. So if you could give us, and by the way, I would like to recognize that EPAM just joined America-Georgia Business Council, as well as Lone Star Services, another company based in Houston that imports Rustavi steel, by the way, and also plans some expansion of partnership with some of the Georgian operations. And the Visa company, that these are three companies that joined the America-Georgia Business Council since our last annual conference. So Arkadiy, back to you. Thank you for, again, being with us today. And the first question is, maybe you could do your own way of introduction of EPAM to our audience. We have diverse audience, we have students, we have young businessmen, we have very successful businesses, and some experienced policymakers in our audience. So how would you describe your business?
Thank you, Mamuka, and again, thank you for inviting me to speak. And I think it's a simple question, which is simple only on the surface, because in different periods of our lives, we probably were describing ourselves differently. But if you're asking about the current moment, then we're one of the leading software engineering services company in the world, which is helping the other companies to compete in this very fast changing world based on constantly developing technologies and some social aspects of our life. So basically our clients are big enterprises which need to build their digital ecosystems to compete with each other, but also to compete with a lot of natively born digital companies like Googles and Amazons and Ubers of the world, because they enter in their space. And they need somebody who can build very specific digital platforms, which very unique to their own business and differentiate them with the quality of traditional software product companies. And that's where EPAM plays. And I think maybe one more aspect to describe with whom we compete, to understand a little bit more what type of companies we are. From one side, we compete with companies like Accenture and Deloitte Digital and IBM Global Services. So basically pretty recognized global names. From another, with global outsourcing companies, which also trying to build divisions to help clients like Infosys and Tatas and Wipros of the world. we're starting to compete because we're trying to bring our advice from the very beginning and then delivering this. But we're starting to enter the world of BCGs, of McKinsey's as well, and big publishing or kind of advertising conglomerates like WPP or Digitas, which also enter in the same space where we play.
Thank you. I think it's important for our audience to understand exactly sort of where EPAM fits in this picture, global picture of information technology development and technology development in general, and software engineering and so forth. I mentioned earlier that you started startup company in 90s, and obviously you didn't think at that point that you will become global leader leading this company, and I'm sure there were many, many challenges. I mean, your personal story is remarkable in this journey, definitely, and I wanted to ask you actually how sort of this process evolved. So where, how did you do it? Let's to ask it in a little with some humor maybe in my question, but how did you do it? How did you manage to elevate your company such a level?
Let me try. So first of all, I think from background, I'm kind of the good or better product of the Soviet Union educational system. I grew up in Minsk, Belarus, and I left to United States exactly 30 years ago. When I'm saying exactly, it's practically a couple of weeks sharp statement, because I left, I think, on 31st of October. So, and it was at the moment when Soviet Union was collapsing. Again, opportunity happened thanks to kind of Gorbachev coming to the place and allowing different level of freedom for people to cross the borders. So I left again 30 years ago, and as I said, good and bad parts of the Soviet Union educational system. On good side, I think it was because I had engineering degree, and traditionally it was pretty good system. On another side, I didn't speak English, because who need to know English when borders were closed? So, and I came to US without speaking. So, but clearly very hungry and wanted to survive, and because no English, nobody wanted to really hire me. So eventually I was dreaming to create the company and create this company with understanding the level of talent, which was kind of on another part of the world. And even internet wasn't there. So I think first of all, instinct to survive and curiosity to find the new ways doing business. And I think also ambition to prove to the world that the talent from Eastern Europe actually can have impact on the global map. And probably first 10 years was a very long way where we grew from 0 to 400-500 people. But then we started to build the network and build a reputation and proving that we can build great software. And for a long time, our clients were professional software companies, which actually helped to build very different DNA character of the EPAM. We were becoming very good engineers versus a lot of our competitors who were coming from consulting angle or from more traditional outsourcing angle. And on this wave, we grew to 7,000 people, with majority of the people in Eastern Europe. And also being naive enough, decided to do IPO in 2012, practically 10 years ago. And when I'm saying naive, it's because with our 7,000 people, only 2% of our people at this point were located in North America and Western Europe, and 98 were in Belarus, Ukraine, Russia, Hungary, kind of countries on very far from there. We have one lawyer in the United States and 2 finance people. and no global head of HR or global head of marketing. So, but we were growing 40–50% at this point. So, and we did our IPO and then realized that we need like to build very different front end and started to add additional capabilities through small, very targeted acquisitions and mix people, mix cultures, mix characters, and moving our very heavy Russian accent to less heavy and sometimes to good English as well. And since IPO, we from 7,000 people grew to currently 50,000 people and become one of the global leader in our space and probably one, if not the fastest growing software technology services company. We 3 years already on Fortune 100 fastest growing publicly traded company in the world, and we #1 in IT services component. So that's why we are. Like, I'm pretty sure you didn't expect me to answer exactly the question how we did it, because I don't know. It's yes. A lot of good people, a lot of good people around. Very lucky from this point of view. Couple lucky moments in our life, and then really hard effort to convert these lucky moments to something much more repeatable.
This is exactly what I expected to hear, that there are certain things that you didn't know then and you still don't know probably now, some things that there was a combination of factors, but people, or probably yourself and your colleagues were the probably key factors in the process. My next question is about, what do you think in terms of business environment and where global business is moving? So do you think your company will continue to grow? And what do you expect from, again, for IT sector in next maybe decade, whether this will be still if you still continue to be the fastest growing company based on the needs of the world?
So 10 years is a very big period. Like if somebody asked me 10 years ago when we just did IPO that we will be where we are right now, so I would be laughing, wouldn't believe it. So if somebody would ask me 10 years before IPO that we will be at IPO at New York Stock Exchange, I would be laughing as well. So 10 years in the future, it's a very tough question, specifically in technology. So after IPO, we started to measure us like in 3 years, not in 5. 5 was like kind of discredited from our past. So, but 3 years we thought would be good, and we were putting some aspirational tasks for us for each 3 years periods, and we were claiming that we will be doubling company in size each 3 years. And it's happened in 2015 against 2012. It's happened in 2018 against 2015. This is important year for us, 2021, because we're supposed to double company against our 2018 size. And last year, at the beginning of the year, clearly in the middle of the year, we saw that it's not going to happen because of COVID impact, which, back to your question, to predict who knew like 2 years ago where we will be today, right? So, but as everybody knows already, and this is kind of common knowledge, very common knowledge, that COVID and pandemic really accelerated the digital transformation tremendously. And the speed which we see and demand which we see today probably can compare it to what we saw 10 years ago when company was 10 times smaller than we are today. So we will be growing this year probably around close to 40% at least. And we public company, I cannot give you anything more. This is what our analysts predicting. But watch our results, which we're going to publish like in 3 weeks from now, and you will understand what's really happened. So from this point of view, I do believe there is so much demand, there is so much change that IT services market for good quality engineering and combined with creativity, because it's not only about engineering anymore. You need to know how to apply this creatively. And again, trivial examples of Ubers and Facebooks and Amazons, like, and how they driving the whole market of industries to the same direction, how they pushing everybody to think creatively, but then utilize the best technology and engineering to implement. So companies which would be able to live and cross border between strategy and implementation, not just advice, but actually deliver on this advice, will be striving for the next years. And we believe that we should be in this category.
So, but you answered my question in a sense that you definitely expect the demand for your products will continue to grow for sure because of the, again, nature of the global economy.
Yeah, because there's so much, so big acceleration to digitizing everything what's possible. And again, companies each capable in helping in this category will be growing very, very fast.
What about geography? I know that your core business started in Eastern Europe, Belarus mostly, but then it grew mostly in Central Eastern Europe. But now I think you are moving further. So what is the geographic focus for growth going forward? And I mean, who decides and how you decide that? Is it like totally kind of market driven, or is it something that that you somehow nurture?
There are like a lot of moving parts in this, and when we started the company, it was a little bit also naive move, because when we started in '93, internet even didn't exist, and we wanted to bridge the globe over the ocean. Later, it's happened to be a good move because internet started to develop so fast, and since then, infrastructure and technology allowing to access talent in any location. And I think while there are political restrictions, there is competitive interest between different countries or different geographies and groups of countries. At the end of the day, I do believe that the main resource is the talent, and everybody would be reaching to the best talent possible. And yes, there is like cost arbitrage with this, but as we see, and that's what we even predicted like 20 plus years ago, there is changing in infrastructure which allow people demand global appreciation in price as well. And that's happening, and yes, it's taken some time, but talent, number one priority. And from this point of view, companies which would be, especially in our field, which would be able to organize productive processes for talent located anywhere, independently from any other aspects, would be benefiting as well. And there is, from your previous question, very, very huge demand for this type of talent. So we started from Eastern Europe, we started from Belarus, and we went to Hungary, then we went to Ukraine, then to Russia, then Poland, Czech Republic. Like practically, we are operating right now in 40 countries. And during the last 6 years, we accelerated our presence also in Asia, in India, in China, in Hong Kong, in Singapore, and during the last 4 or 5 years in Latin America as well. And we move further, and we have offices in Armenia, in Kazakhstan, and Uzbekistan, and we opened Georgia last year as well. So no limits, and practically we stop thinking about countries. We really thinking about talent and how our internal digital ecosystem will be able to handle this, and how we can educate potential talent and bridge the gaps in what they need to know to be productive.
I think that's very interesting way of approaching definitely this, and that's on one hand is natural, but also smart way of, I think, moving and directing the growth.
So that's exactly natural way, I would say. The point who can do it faster and who can do it better, and that's the whole competitive advantage you can get, because ideas are cheap. Ideas, as soon as you starting to implement ideas, there are hundreds of others who will be picking up on the same stuff, and then the only difference is how much better you can do it.
Yeah. Thinking about geography and countries that you are operating now, probably governments in general are happy to have your presence there because you bring obviously jobs and you bring employment, and it's mostly, I assume, highly paid jobs, and so that supports local economies in many different ways, directly and indirectly, clearly. Do you need any kind of incentives from the government to go to country, or your nature of your business really doesn't require that?
I think benefits, local benefits, definitely helping. And again, that's a global game. If somebody's starting to do it, you have to reply. Like India was a champion of this like almost 30 years ago. And India actually attracted in result a lot of work coming to the country, so which actually were few kind of triggering investments in education, investment in people, and create a huge industry. And then some other countries started to think how to compete globally and how to bridge the disadvantage of being later to the game and not having some of the components. So about 15 years ago, we convinced government in Belarus to put incentive and create high-tech park to make sure there is opportunity for the country to play globally. So later on, some other countries starting to replicate it. I know that Georgia did it, Uzbekistan did it. So Ukraine actually making the same incentives, and even Russia introduced very similar incentives last year. So because everybody trying to compete for talent, and this is a talent which bring in a very different type of jobs in the country, which create additional layer of ecosystem, services industry ecosystem around this component. So I think it's important to think about smartly how to do it.
Okay, so maybe just a little follow-up question on, because we are here at America Georgia Business Council annual meeting, and clearly I would like to maybe ask you a little bit, to talk a little bit about your Georgia experience. And Georgia is a smaller country, obviously, much smaller than Ukraine, let's say, or any other country that you named in this conversation, except Armenia. And and I know that you opened office last year. I know that there is a growth in Georgia. So my question is about where do you see this going, let's say, with Georgia? So IT potential of Georgia, do you see this going forward, growing? You mentioned about some of the incentives that government is trying to create. So what's your experience in Georgia? That's to summarize.
I think first time I visited, I think exactly 2 years ago, at the end of 2019. And I met with government people. I think I met with Minister of Finance and with Prime Minister at the time and with Minister of Education to understand what's possible, and we're explaining that probably incentive would be very beneficial to bring the business and build the industry there, because in Georgia at this point, besides banking sector, IT was very rudimentary and number of very small companies. And then about a year ago, about a little bit more than a year ago, we were testing here ground with some training activities, opening kind of online boot camp to understand a little bit more. And some our middle management starting to visiting Georgia to understand the level of talent, talk year ago we opened office, but government actually delivered on the promise and create incentives for the IT industry very similar to what was available in some other countries in Eastern Europe. And I think we will be finishing this year with over 500 people, which I wouldn't expect 1 year ago. So we brought some people. Actually, Georgia has some additional advantages as a geography, as a climate, as a welcoming culture. So there is some number of people which were moving, I don't know, for life or for a year or two to enjoy the local attributes. But also we hired, I believe, close to 400 people. It will be local. So, and we starting to talk, we started to partnering with universities, and we have very good references from EPAM veterans about the quality of engineering. So how much we will be able to grow it, it's a good question. We hope that we will be able to kind of influence the educational ecosystem and also create kind of internal inflow understanding in Georgia how good it is for Georgia, but how good it is for children to go to this profession, because it's paid, it's interesting, it's making you part of global economy, you interact with a lot of interesting people and interesting projects, like ability to travel. It's also like might bring additional level of tourists, because if this grows, like I'm pretty sure clients will be happy to visit as well. So I think there are a lot of advantage from any side of the story.
Definitely. I mean, there is a direct impact, as we can see. You know, if there are 500 people employed already, even if it doubles in the next several years or so, you already become one of the largest employer in Georgia. So it's very significant. And but your type of business is not only well paid, but it also has a side benefits, which means that it's a advancement of knowledge and advancement of requirements for additional kind of education. And so that's a perfect sort of, I think, driver for again, as you said, the development of local talent, but also integration of Georgia to global trends of economy. So maybe we are unfortunately out of time. I greatly appreciate that you allocated this time to us and to this conversation, but maybe a couple of sentences, final sort of words about where you see this IT industry in these times of, you mentioned already, the pandemic actually accelerated some of the maybe needs for more needs of the development and engagement. But do you see this as a continue to be the kind of one of the dominant global developments going forward, meaning IT development? I'm asking probably a very simple question in the sense that
I think it's a most probable scenario that IT will be one of the main drivers of economy and change everywhere, and that's why, like, when we're describing purpose of the company, we're talking about helping to keep this world competitive through assisting the companies to go through this constant change of technology and social aspects of the life. So, and I think, again, it is a kind of simple question with a preloaded answer. Yes, it is. So
yeah, I think, I was just saying that, you know, I think with EPAM in Georgia and what you do there in other countries, you really you become the driver for different kind of type of development. You know, it's cultural change in many ways as well, because you set up different type of requirements for education, requirements for maybe or type of jobs that you create require different type of attitude for those talents as well. I remember in 1998 when we helped at that time AES Corporation, first electricity utility, foreign direct investor coming to Georgia. In 5 years they left because they sold their business for their global, some of the global issues and local issues as well. But they left a footprint in Georgia of non-existent before, culture of payment of bills, because people didn't pay electricity bills in previous times. So it's a very simple and not direct comparison, but footprint of companies like yours operating in a country will be long-lasting, and that's definitely something commendable. Maybe one last word, and we'll let you go.
Listen, thank you for inviting. It's I was in Georgia since my first visit 2 more times already, so I'm pretty sure that I will be visiting several times per year right now. And I think it's a very interesting opportunity, exactly because what you mentioned. There is a big impact of IT. It could be visible impact on big country. It could be very visible impact on the small country and opportunity as well. So
thank you.
this would be happening. Again, thank you for inviting.